on, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Alex, you can call me Default. And today, we're going to be going through my personal hopes and thoughts for each one of the characters in Danganronpa 2 in the new Danganronpa 2x2 game. Now, Danganronpa 2 cast is probably one of my favorite casts throughout all the Danganronpa series. I personally really love the game. I love the characters from it. And with the new game coming out, there's a lot I'd like to see from some characters. Some I'd maybe want to see a little bit more for others, and others that I just think we'd just be better off without. Honestly, we'd just be better off out without. With that being said, I have a little tier list here. We're going to be going through every single one of the characters from Danganronpa 2. There is one other character that's not on here that I want to include that we'll talk about towards the end. But for now, we're going to go through this one by one. I'm going to go through every single one of these characters, and I'm going to have, you know, some thoughts on each one of them and what I think, you know, could happen with their character in the new game and what I think just won't happen. So let's start with Akane. Now, Akane is someone who, in the first Danganronpa 2, that feels weird kind of say, like, the first Danganronpa 2. Akane is a character that I personally feel like is extremely underutilized when it comes to Danganronpa 2. She has her big moments with Monokuma where she picks a fight with Monokuma and then Nekomaru takes a hit. And then I think she has a somewhat decent part in chapter 4 with the Nekomaru thing and, like, you know, his trial. But, like, that's kind of it. Like, I really have, I've said this on numerous occasions that she's just not really my favorite character from this game. She's someone that I really did not feel like needed to survive to the end, or if they were gonna, like, have her survive to the end, at least have her contribute more. Like, at least Aoi. Like, I always like to think of her as, like, the counterpart to Aoi, in this game. And Akane just kind of is not as interesting as Aoi. She's just always, like, I don't know, she's a character I just really could not stand. She has one funny bit, with, like, the, hey, look, Hajime, I'm eating. And overall, just, Akane is a character that, like, I need to see more from. I have heard rumors, I don't know how true they are, that essentially she was supposed to be the original antagonist of the game, like, kind of like how Nagito is. She was supposed to be the antagonist of Danganronpa 2. So, I think as of right now, I'm going to put her under maybe dies, because I feel like she, you know, I don't know, I feel like Akane just, again, she lived for so long, didn't really contribute much, and I feel like maybe if they write her character a little differently and, like, change it a little bit, that where she's a little bit more interesting, maybe that could be the case, but as of right now, I'm not feeling good about Akane. Next up we have Chiaki. So, Chiaki is a character that really has a big input on the second game. And the thing that we know about Danganronpa 2x2, or 2x2, or whatever you want to call it, is that there's a big significant event that really changes how this game plays out. And when I hear that, the first thing that comes to mind is Chiaki. Because here's the thing. Chiaki's death in Chapter 5 is what makes them solve... Chiaki is essentially the one that kind of saves them from the Neo World program. And she's the one that kind of tells them, yeah, we're in the Neo World program. Like, oh, she didn't say it word for word, obviously. But, you know, you come to find out she's, like, part of the program. And all that stuff. And I hate to say it, but Chiaki is, like, dead. I really think Chiaki is, like, going to be the character that dies, like, really at the beginning. And her death is going to be what kind of changes the events. Because think of it this way. Like, if they didn't have Chiaki kind of is the one that, like, carried Danganronpa 2 for most of the way. And is the one that led the story. To, like, what would have essentially been, like, the good ending. Or, like, the neutral ending. Whatever you want to consider it. That her dying makes a huge change. Like, not having her throughout the whole story, like, really changes a lot. So I think her dying makes a lot of sense, in my opinion. You got her whole character arc in the first one. You understand her whole lore. If we're going the route of Danganronpa 2x2 having a different ending and different story, I think her dying is, like, kind of essential, in my opinion. If you disagree, you're allowed to disagree. Actually, in fact, I'm gonna put her in needs to die, because... Which that sounds messed up, because I actually had this initially made for another character. But, I think that she needs to die for the story to change. Maybe it's a messed up take, but I really think that is how we're going to go with this. Ultimate Impostor. So Ultimate Impostor is a character that in Danganronpa 1, you obviously think it's Byakuya Togami and gained a lot of weight, and obviously that's not the case. And then he turns out to be the first victim. Now, my thing is that I think Ultimate Impostor is a character that's either going to, you know, could live for a while or he needs to live. Because here's the thing. Right in chapter 1, you know, a little bit before he dies, he has this small little talk of Hajime. He pretty much says, like, oh, Hajime, there's more I'd love to tell you about, like, my past, but now is not the time, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, next thing you know, he dies. Danganronpa 2x2 would be the perfect opportunity for him to, like, get this, like, development. Maybe for him to open up about being the Ultimate Impostor. We get to finally learn some more about this guy. I feel like he needs to live. I feel like if we kill him off right off the bat again, that would not be a good use of his character when given the chance to redo it. So therefore, I think him, you know, surviving just makes a lot more sense. Or at least, you know, him needing to live a lot longer. It's not just because of him being like an early victim. It's because even in the Danganronpa 3 anime, we just really don't get too much of him. Like, we get him with his Ryota Miturai scenes, but like, that's kind of it. So I think he needs to live. Hajime. Alright. So, here's what I gotta say about Hajime, right? And I'm gonna include, like I said, there was another character I was gonna include. In fact, let me do it really quick. I'm gonna add him to the board. I add him to the board, we got Izuru. I think these two characters are gonna go hand in hand. I think Hajime, this might be crazy, but I think Hajime maybe dies. And I mean, obviously, I have to put Izuru with him, but, I'll talk about Izuru in a second. Hajime, obviously we got his whole character arc of him choosing, like, you know, what happens with, like, you know, everyone living and whatnot. And he, like, you know, survives and saves everyone. What if this time around he sacrifices himself? I feel like that could be a very interesting concept. I don't know if that would happen, but I feel like that would be very interesting. Maybe to even stop Izuru. I feel like that would be a really cool way for them to handle his character. But Izuru... I'm putting him under needs to live. Not because, obviously, you know, if Hajime dies, Izuru dies. They're the same character, essentially. Or they're the same person with two different personalities. You get that. You get what I mean. The thing of Izuru is, Izuru in Danganronpa 2 is more so kind of used as, like, a concept of a character. He's this really, really fucking badass edgelord Andy kind of character. But he doesn't get to do anything in Danganronpa 2. You have the scene of him sitting in the boat, which that's what this scene is from, where he's talking to Nagito. And then you get your little bit of him from Danganronpa 3, but like, I feel like we need more of an impact. I would just love to see Izuru take over throughout the trial in Danganronpa 2x2, 2x2. I think that would be so much more interesting than having Junko come back. I think we need more Izuru. So I'm going to put him up in needs to live. Not because he's going to live, but more so because I need to see more of him. And that's what you could also consider this. Like, needs to live being like, we need a lot more development. Something needs to happen here. Could live. You can maybe give them a little bit more development. You know, it would be kind of nice. Could go either way. It could also be read as like, you know, they had decent development, so if we want to give them more, like, maybe, but it's not necessary. Maybe dies is like, yeah, they're not really necessarily needed, like, you know, they kind of got their part. And dead is like, yeah, like, listen, you got your whole character arc in Danganronpa 2, we don't really need anything with you in this game, and like, you're probably gonna die. And it needs to die, it's just like, we'll get to the other exception for this whenever we get to it, but like, I would say it's for plot reasons that they're gonna die. Ibuki. Ibuki's a character that I think I'm actually gonna put in could go either way, because here's the thing. Ibuki doesn't need to live. Which sounds fucked up to say. But, Ibuki's a really interesting character where she's a gag character. And she's a really good gag character. But she's also one of those characters where she kind of has this bit, and then that's her whole character. Is like, she's just this goofy, silly person that, like, can't really lock in. At least I feel like she can't really lock in. From what we've seen in Danganronpa 2, like, I love Ibuki. She's a funny, goofy queen, but, like, we have not seen Ibuki get serious and lock in the whole time. And it's more so, I guess, the fact that she's kind of like, I don't want to say a one-dimensional character, but, like, you know, her being silly and quirky is like her whole personality. Kind of like, you know, I'll compare her to other like chapter 3 victims, like Taka. Like Taka is a character that like, you know, okay, maybe Taka's not the best example, but like, you know, Taka's like known for like, yeah, I'm the guy that's serious and I log in. Obviously he has that whole part in chapter 3 where he's like sad because of Mondo's death, but like, you know, he's one of those characters where that was pretty much his whole personality. He's not a dynamic character like someone like Hajime or Chiaki or Fuyuhiko. Like, she is just that personality trait, and that's kind of it. But the same thing is that for one, she's a fan favorite character, so maybe they could make her live this time. Again, staying around so like don't keep favorite characters. But also, look at the first game. We had Yasuhiro Hagakure, the most useless guy, literally contributed jack shit to these trials, and he lived. So they could always make her a character that does survive. But, like, I still find that to be unlikely, unfortunately. Even though I love Ibuki and I think she's a fun character, I don't know if I really see her living. I think it could go either way with her. We've got Mr. Fuyuhiko. I'm just gonna keep it real with y'all. I think Fuyuhiko's dying. And I'll talk about why a little bit later on when we get to another character, but think of it this way. Fuyuhiko got his whole character arc in Danganronpa 2. He got his whole character arc. He's a really good character. We all know this. We all love him for it. But Fuyuhiko is just also, like, you know, how do you say it? Like, he had a very big character arc, but him becoming a victim in this game could be so much more interesting, or even if he's a killer. Which, again, I will elaborate more when I get to another character, which I'm sure you guys can probably guess who I'm talking about. I just feel like Fuyuhiko was completely utilized perfectly. Maybe towards the end of the game, he kind of becomes, like, not just him, but all the side characters, him, Akane, Soda, and Sonia, like, they all kind of become, like, I don't want to say useless, but, like, I feel like in the final trial, they really don't contribute that much. So, like, that's kind of, like, it when it comes to that, but, like, yeah, I mean, ultimately, I just don't really see him living in this game, which, again, I feel like I'd be fine with that, because he got his whole character arc in Danganronpa 2 initially. Mahiru. Mahiru is a character that needs to live. Mahiru is a character that was completely underutilized, and she was such a really well-written character. She was a very interesting character. On my initial playthrough or walkthrough of, like, Danganronpa 2, she was a character that really kind of annoyed me, and she kind of struck me as this, like, essentially what, like, Tenko kind of is in Danganronpa 3, of like, oh, I hate men, blah, 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 which, like, is not the case. If you actually do her free time events, she's not like that at all. And she's really, really grown on me the last few years when I kind of, like, you know, think more and more about it. So I really do like her character. And I could see her, you know, especially since I don't see Chiaki living, I could see her filling in the role that Chiaki kind of took from Danganronpa 3. And I'm pretty sure she was supposed to be, like how I was talking about Akane being the antagonist character, Mahiru was supposed to be the side character from what I understand. So, like, I think her living is very, very important, or if not, if she doesn't live, then, like, maybe she makes it to chapter 5. That's kind of where I see her going, or at least I would like to see her going. But, yeah, Mahiru is a character that just, she got the rough end of the stick, and she got killed in chapter 2, and I feel like she just needs to live to, you know, get that extra development that she really kind of used, or could have used. Again, really great character, but just died a little bit early. Mikan. Okay, so Mikan is another character that I'm going to put right here and that could go either way, which is funny because, you know, chapter 3 and I'm putting her right with her victim. I feel like Mikan kind of got her whole story, you know, done. Not for the most part, but, like, she's one of the weirdest characters to talk about on here because her death really does not reflect who she was as, like, a person, because she got inflicted the despair disease. Technically, you could argue, yeah, it was, because, you know, that's how she was on the outside world from, like, the despair that Junko gave her, make her the ultimate despair. But Mikan also just, like, I feel like we got her good, like, you know, opportunity of getting to know her throughout chapter 3 whenever she wasn't acting under, like, the despair stuff that she does in the trial. You know, and I just feel like you get a lot of Mikan. Mikan, I don't really know where I see her sitting in terms of, like, being a victim, survivor. I don't really see her being a killer again. I think it'd be very, very, like, really shitty choice on Spike Chunsoft's part if they make her a killer again. I don't like that if that's what they do. But I feel like we can maybe put her under could live, but again, she's not a character that I fully feel confident in like living this time around. Nagito. Okay. Nagito is gonna be the weirdest character on this list. I'm gonna keep it real with you. In fact, he's gonna be this hop of could go either way. Because here's the thing of Nagito, right? He seems to really fulfill, based on the trailers, he feels like, I don't want to, take it before, because we know how Nagito is. Nagito is a trickster character, he's a fucking maniac, and he does some real crazy shit that I really don't know where I see him going throughout Danganronpa 2. I don't know if he'll continue to be, like, this trickster, or if, like I said, Akane might fill that role, being an antagonistic character. I don't really know what we're doing with Nagito, to be honest with you. I don't know if he'll live. I don't know how he's gonna die. Maybe he could even die first. Maybe they're putting him in the trailers to make people think he's gonna live, but he's not. I really have zero guesses when it comes to Nagito's character and how he gets handled in this game. Because, again, obviously we know Nagito got his whole character arc. He's, like, one of the most favorite characters from Danganronpa 2. He's one of the best written characters in Danganronpa 2. Like, I really don't see what we do with him. I mean, they could still make him better, give him more time with Hajime, unlike they did in, like, Danganronpa 2, where, like, after chapter 1, Nagito and Hajime are not, like, really friends anymore, and, they kind of have their distance. They're, like, besties in chapter 1 when they're investigating and shit, but then, Nagito goes to kill Ultimate Impostor, and it's like, yeah. So, I don't know where I see them going with him. Nekomaru. Okay, this is kind of towards my bias towards him, but I would really love to see him live. He is a character that I could also kind of put him in could go either way, because he is a very, like, he's a character that, like, he has a lot of really, really good moments in Danganronpa 4, or, I'm saying Danganronpa 4 because 2 by 2, okay, anyway. He has a lot of really good moments in Danganronpa 2, when it comes to taking the blast for Akane and becoming Nekomaru, and him and Gundham have that ultimate. I keep saying ultimate because we're fucking talking about Danganronpa. He has that really good moment between him and Gundham where, like, they have this fight and whoever wins doesn't really matter because they're trying to get everyone else out of the funhouse. So, like, he's a character that, like, you could argue that, like, he really does not need any more development. He got his whole character arc. I think Nekomaru is the most slept on gentle giant. I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. Everyone loves Sakura. Everyone loves Gonta. But people always kind of reduce Nekomaru down to the guy that talks about shit. Which, like, sure, he does make that joke a lot. But, like, man, I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. Considering he makes up for it in when he fucking clutches up. Saved the group, like, twice. The group, okay, twice. The whole group, maybe not twice. But, like, at least, like, people in the group twice. So I would really love to see a change of pace when we make a gentle giant character survive. I think that'd be so fucking awesome. Nekomaru, out of all the characters in Danganronpa 2, is one of my most favorite slept-on characters. And I just really, really would love to see that happen for him. He's just such a great character. And he's like, I don't know. I would just love to see it for Nekomaru. I feel like he needs to live. Give him that extra development. But I don't know 100%. I don't know 100% if that's where they'll take his character. But we'll have to see. Peko. Alright. Peko is a character I'm putting under needs to live. And I think actually no, there's another character I would put at the very top of this. The thing with Peko is Peko's character, she's this really interesting character in Danganronpa 1. Or sorry, in chapter 1 of Danganronpa 2. Or even just in the prologue, she's just very, like, stoic, like, badass, silent, but, like, fucking deadly, like, swordswoman. But then you go through the chapter 2 trial, and she just thinks of herself as a tool, and it's just, like, it hurts to hear this stuff, man, because, like, Peko is obviously more than just a tool. I mean, you guys heard the speech that Fuyuhiko gave to her, but, like, man, it really, really just made me like her character so much less after that. I just think she just completely got reduced to, like, I don't want to say a nothing character. She has a badass execution. but just her viewing herself as a tool and just seeming like a, what would you call that? Like a little assistant to Fuyuhiko just really kind of hurts a lot, and it really makes her not really stand out as a character independently. And so that's why I think that, like, we get either a reverse situation where Fuyuhiko kills and someone else is the victim and she kind of has to live on without him. Or like something on those lines where Fuyuhiko does have to die first and she has to figure out what to do with herself on her own. I think that would be the best character arc we could get for her. Just her realizing her, like, her self-value, her self-worth, and not just seeing herself as a tool for someone else. Like, I think it could be the best thing we could get for her. It's what we really, really need for her, because, like, Danganronpa, and especially with the Shining Justice stuff, I think that really made her character corny for me, which sucks, because, like, again, she has such a good design, and she's such a cool talent, and she gets reduced to, like, a fucking tool. And you hate to see it. Like, you genuinely do. So, I think that she needs to live. I would really love to see her for so much longer. Like, if she doesn't actually live, like, you know, much longer, like, if she dies in chapter 4, like, I get it. I'm fine with that. But anything to her at least getting her character arc where she kind of gets her independence and self-worth, I think that'd be just so, so good. And it'd be a really good change in character for her. Alright, and now we have the number 1 spot for Needs to Live. Hiyoko Saionji. The most underutilized, or not underutilized, but, like, the biggest opportunity of character growth cut short because of fucking Mikan. I really think we need that whole character arc for her and she needs to live. If they mess this up and don't do it, I think it's just, like, GG. Like, I don't know. I don't know how you, like, just mess that up twice. Actually, you know what? In fact, I think I'm going to change it to Mahiru dying again. Because I feel like that is still something that she kind of needs to, like, move on. As much as I do want Mahiru to live. But, like, I think Hiyoko living is, like, so much more. Because she goes from this bratty little shit that no one in the group likes. Because, except for Mahiru. Because, like, you know, she's always being a bitch to Mikan. To her kind of becoming likable to the group and trying to participate and trying to improve herself. I think we really, really need to see her live to the end. I think that'd be so nice. I think it'd be perfect. I'd be so much happier if that happened. I think that'd be so much better than them just killing her off in chapter 3 again. But who knows? We will see. Sonia, I think Sonia's another character I can put in dead. For a multitude of reasons. For one, I really see Sonia being a killer this time around. Because here's the thing. In chapter 2, when we're talking about Peko, or, you know, the killer of chapter 2 before they know it's Peko, Sonia's talking about, like, well, maybe they did know it was Peko. I don't know. But she's the one that starts talking about serial killers and Shining Justice and stuff like that. So she's very well informed when it comes to, like, killers and whatnot. I think them making her a killer would just be really interesting, especially for, like, an execution would be really cool. I don't know how they could do it, but I think that'd be really cool to see. Makes her more of an impactful character, because Sonia kind of gets reduced to, like, at least in my opinion, like, I feel like she definitely contributes at least more than Akane, but for the most part, I feel like she's just reduced to, like, oh, she's the character that Soda sims for, so it's like, that's her whole character. So I think that just, we need to really see more of, you know, her being a killer, like, you know, something else happening. And that's the other thing, is, like, I feel like she also needs to die because of, like, Soda. I think Soda needs to learn to stop simping for her, in Danganronpa 2. Or in Danganronpa 2x2, 2x2. And her dying is just, like, one, then he'd be, like, really into, like, a killer lady, which I don't think he wants to do that. And then that gives him an opportunity for character growth. So I'll transition into him since he's next. Like, I think Sonia dying really would impact his character a lot and be like, damn, I was over here simping for this lady and she's a fucking crazy killer that, like, you know, into, like, serial killer shit. And she actually ended up killing someone. Like, I feel like it would make him reflect a lot more and be like, damn, what was I doing, bro? Like, I feel like it would really open his eyes and be a really cool, like, character growth opportunity that they could take with his character. Again, I don't really feel like I see him living just because he got his whole time to shine in Danganronpa 2. So I don't really feel like there's a point in having him continue on. You could maybe go in the could go either way section, but, like, again, I don't really see that being the case. So I think he's gonna die again as well. speaking of another character that goes into this whole little triangle, I guess, Gundham. Gundam's a character that I think is just gonna die based off the fact that, like, he had really big character development. You know, chapter 4, he's one of the fan favorite characters from Danganronpa 2. And just overall, I feel like this time around, he could be a victim. He could maybe kill again, but I don't find that to be likely considering he only killed out of the fact that, like, he wanted to save the group. So it could come down to him being a killer again, but again, I find that to be extremely unlikely. And I find him more so to be a victim this time around than a killer. We got his whole character arc, and I feel like that kind of energy that got put into him needs to be put into, like, these characters up here, or maybe even some of these ones. But I guess we'll have to see. And then finally, Teruteru needs to die. I don't really feel like I need to elaborate too much on this, but Teruteru is a character that, like, we've really seen that he just is not, what's the word? Even in Danganronpa 3, the anime, he continues to be this weird pervert character that, like, no one seems to really like. I mean, they deal with him for, like, the cooking and stuff like that, but, like, he still does this weird pervert shit. And there's no way in hell that throughout Danganronpa 2x2, I'm going to be watching this motherfucker go and, like, sexually harassing people the entire time. Like, no, that's actually going to check me out. And I'm really not going to enjoy it. If they somehow make it so this character, like, gets called out and realizes his actions and improves as a character, then you know what? I'm here for it. But even in his first introduction of him being like, oh, Miss Sonia, can you suck the poison out of my lungs? Like, no. Like, that's fucking disgusting. I don't like it. I don't want to see this motherfucker. Like, genuinely, get him out of my game ASAP, Rocky. And I will be happy. But, like, again, if they somehow change his character, then, like, maybe I'll be open to it. Because, like, you know, you do kind of sympathize with him when it comes to, like, his whole thing of, like, wanting to reunite with his mom and figure out what happened to her. Like, I can sympathize with that, but, like, I just can't sympathize with being a fucking creep. That's just, no, I don't like that. So, this is where we're at with predictions. I don't know who I'd want to move around, because I feel like I do have a lot of people in the needs to live, or could live. Granted, could live is characters that I more so see, like, dying, like, slightly more than, like, the needs to live. But, I don't know, we could always see. These could all get, like, switched up, but, like, either way, if they're on this top, I see them as more likely to survive. This is, like, 50-50, and then these ones are, like, ones where it's like, yeah, I really could kind of see them dying. I mean, Hajime, again, could go in the middle as well, just because, like, I don't really know what they're going to do with Hajime in terms of, like, how he's going to run the story. And I guess, like I said, I can put, like, Izuru next to him, considering they're the same character, somewhat. But I want him up here just to kind of signify that, like, yeah, I feel like we need more development for Izuru to make him more of, like, instead of just a plot element, an actual character. So, yeah, that's what we got. That's my predictions and hopes for Danganronpa 2. In terms of, like, the characters. Plot-wise, I don't really know where we're going to go. My theory is that, like, I feel like Izuru kind of has to be the final boss of this one and not just Junko, because I really just don't want to see Junko again. I want to see Izuru get utilized so much better and just actually be a good character instead of a plot element. That's kind of something I already said, but, like, you know, just that's what I like to see. That was really just my hopes. Danganronpa 2 is already a really good game. And if they give these characters that need that development the time to shine and really get to grow as characters when they were kind of, like, cut short in Danganronpa 1 of being a lot better characters, then I'll be extremely happy with how they do this game. But we'll have to see. We'll have to wait till next year, and then we'll see how this all goes. But anyway, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down below what your thoughts are, who you could see living, who you could see dying, why, and all that fun stuff. That's going to be it. I'm going to catch you guys next time. Keep it virtual. Peace.